Greetings, everybody, and welcome. It is I, Tantasnar van Dracovin, your Lord and Emperor here at the Dracovin Empire, and hey, we're going to be doing something a little different today. Yes, I've been having my tabletops talks, if you've been watching them, on one of my other screens, but I've used this screen for some content that was YouTube Direct, and not for this mixed YouTube Twitch content that I've been doing, but I will be doing one of those things that I've done, specifically recorded before, in a live format. Yes, it's a live format. I'm going to be taking one of these packs of cards, which I am partially through. As you can see, some of these are open right there. Those are the ones I've opened up so far for this endeavor. I'm going to take one of these packs of cards out. I know not what is in this pack of cards at all. I have never seen it nor opened it. And now that I have this pack of cards, I am going to open them, and we will use every one of those cards in some format using a special set of rules that I have developed in order to design an adventure. Yes, what this means is that at the end of this entire endeavor, I will have a adventure that will be kind of written, and though in the past I kept these written more as if they were in the Forgotten Realms, after the moniker of months here since I've been moving away and making things a little bit more system agnostic, not that you couldn't use these in the Forgotten Realms, I'm going to try to do my best to, talk about it in such a way that is indeed system agnostic. So, hey, if you wanted to do this kind of thing in, Galarian, knock yourself out. But if you need a refresher on the rules for this, well then, we can handle that here. Because I have the full rules here for the Forgotten Realms D&D Adventure Builder. So, the basic rules for when I open this one here, I must use every land in the pack, including tokens and lands. The only thing I wouldn't use is ads, because sometimes ads show up in these things. Not as much anymore, but you never know what you're going to find. So, I will have to have at least had 3 encounters designed. That doesn't mean it's the entire set of all the encounters that are going to be in this adventure. Plenty more could be in existence, especially if you wanted to adapt it to yourself. And then each card type, as we talk about them, I'll kind of go over the basic rules again for each card type as we hit into them. But each one of those has specific rules. And then at the end, I will have a adventure level determined by whatever is in here. And I can reflect what decisions I'm making based on card abilities and or lore. Basically, whatever is written on the card, more than just the name of the card, will be used in some way. To the exact degree it will be used, well, that will also depend on the card and, honestly, the story we're writing. But they will be used. So if something has, I don't know, first strike, maybe it's going for surprise. See? That's how we're kind of determining a lot of stuff in this one. So, how about the first thing we do is we open up this pack here of cards, and then I assemble the images of those cards over onto my side. Here. See where it is, where it's all the card listing? That is the Gatherer website, which I will use to display the cards that are randomly in this pack. And chat window, you are up here, which is in a position that you're not seeing yourself. Let me readjust that so you can see. Hey, there you go. Chat window, you're there. I'm going to move you kind of over here, shrink you down a little bit so you're next to it. Because guess what this is over here? It's my notes about this game. So, I've had some weird luck in some of these that have caused some various issues for design, honestly, for reusing some certain concepts. So I'm hoping to get some different things in this pack to, like, open up things that just a little bit make it a little easier for me, personally. But we'll see how it goes, because I don't know how it's going to go. Alright, let's open it up. Crack open that pack. So far, I don't know what's going on. Alright, well, we start out with, I'm just going to go over the cards in the pack first. Unexpected Windfall, so gaining some treasure. Bar the Gate, closing a door and keeping it shut for some kind of reason. Closing a path, there could be a lot of reasons behind that. A brazen dwarf. A shambling ghast. Makes a good enemy. Then the dwarf can be certainly someone you meet with. A scaled herbalist. A possible enemy, a possible ally. A gloomstalker, another dwarf. A dwarven ranger this time. Maybe we're doing something related to dwarfs this time. Sign of Stygia. A tiefling shaman. Which could be represented in certain ways. A jaded sellsword. Dragonborn warrior. God. Baleful beholder. We have a beholder. That's a difficult thing to deal with. I will have to figure that out. A Djinni Windseeker. A Skullpert merchant, which is a dwarven citizen. Some more dwarfs. An aberrant mind sorcerer, an elf shaman. A chaos channeler, a human shaman. And a Circle of Dreams druid, which is our rare. And then we have a swamp. And then we have Icing Death Frost Tone. It's a piece of legendary equipment. Well, that kind of draws the story already. Because honestly, I've discovered our MacGuffin. You know, a beholder could be a friendly NPC. That would be an easy way to keep it from getting a very high CR, honestly. Because there are things that would be equivalent to aberrations like beholders in Pathfinder that you could easily use. And in Dungeons & Dragons, they tend to be very difficult. But there are things that would fill that equivalent space. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go down our list of cards and we're going to get the images ready to click on them. So let me quickly do this as we kind of chat. But yes, it looks as though when I saw the token there, because I'm showing tokens, right? I should have Dungeons and Tokens shown in this. I will have to make sure it is there. I mean, oh god. Let me see if Icing Death is in here and if I've set it up correctly. Because honestly, it was very unexpected to kind of get goddamn Icing Death. Yeah, Icing Death Frost Talk oh no, Icing Death Frost Tyranny is here. The dragon that is making up from it. Alright, so we have to kind of redo this here. Give me a second here to redo this entire searches. They may have reset it since the previous time. So I need an advanced search. Anyway, as I was saying, the beholder making it much more of an aberrant that's normally violent, but possibly could be useful. Maybe perhaps rather than friendly, maybe something that would be considered, what's the way I want to say this? Something that you can make a deal with, I guess is the way I'm looking at it. That might be something that would be helpful. Because certainly there are very dangerous things out there, and having them there for you to encounter and possibly deal with, well, you know. Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, we're going to do that one. Let's see if that works. And we're going to do it compact. Yeah. It's the same way as it was before. Just making sure all of it works. It's showing all the other symbols. Man, it's been a while since I've used the Gatherer. I'm going to admit to that. It has been a while since... searching only for Adventures in the Forgotten Realms is difficult. I can't remember how to do that, which kind of sucks. So it does convention adventures and Not all sets. We want compact, set order, that's fine. We can do alphabetical. Sorry about the delay here. Turns out when things reset and make it very difficult, it makes it very difficult. And you try to figure out, hey, why isn't this working correctly? Let's try the search here and see if it shows up in such a way that it has the tokens. Because I didn't even notice if it's got the Icing Death token. Unfortunately, if it doesn't have the Icing Death, it doesn't have the Icing Death token. If I click on this, does it show me? It shows me the dragon. Oh, and it's got the variation of that. And the token shows up. So I'm going to have to figure out tokens somewhere else. And I could spell Icing Death. Yeah, it doesn't show up tokens. So I was fine where I was at, it turns out. Well, screw me. Token's not going to show up. I'll have to find an image of that and just throw it up here. Thanks, Google. Oh, Frost Tongue. Images. A little bit kind of here. There it is. TCG player. It'll be not aligned correctly. Of course it won't. We'll worry about that. I'm going to be honest, you know, why don't we briefly back away from this here. Show it up there? No, it doesn't also. I'm trying my best here, but apparently showing up tokens in this entire thing is, it sucks. Turns out that is, you know, a on-the-fly kind of issue that came up that hasn't had been a real issue up until now, just because of the nature of a lot of these kind of cards and stuff. So we do have 2 story beats in this, and then a whole lot of creatures, which I guess that makes it very difficult, because honestly it sounds like this can be more of a less of a combat related adventure and more of a exploration adventure, because there are some things to technically battle in here. I'm not gonna lie about that. But like something like the honestly, the Beholder throws things out of whack. You're probably not going to want to fight the Beholder. Gonna be honest. A Beholder in 5th edition is a fairly high CR. And even if you're using a different edition than that, it honestly is in a position where you're not probably also going to want to mess with whatever is also being replacing it if you're using it in another system. And then after that, a lot of the things here are, well, NPC type of things. So I have like a cast of characters, almost I could say, that I've can kind of assemble here. Even a Djinni, they're not really things you necessarily want to fight. Not really great things. And there are a lot of dwarfs here, which, you know, we do have some, like, a half-elf with the Aberrant Mind Sorcerer. Chaos Chandler, very interesting. We might have to, like, look deeper at these cards to figure out what we want to do with a lot of them. And if they're going to, you know, end up being a threat or not. So the only thing we're not going to be opening is, honestly, frickin' Icing Death Frost Tongue. Turns out that ain't happening, as much as I'd like for it to do it. So we're just going to do this. It's a legendary item. So the thing I want to talk about this legendary item is, give some people some bonus damage. Whenever a equipped creature attacks, tap target creature defending your controls. Equip it for 2. It's very ice related. You know, for a legendary artifact, the thing about this is we go back to our basic rules, which I have some rules on legendary artifacts. I actually specifically have rules built into my thing. Guess what? It's the MacGuffin. It's either used to kill a boss, solve a big problem, or the story is about it. That's what the words I said. So the thing about this one here is, it's a sword. Now, it could be used to kill something, but I don't think it could be very useful at killing a beholder unless you stab in the eye, and even then, it's got 10 others. So, I mean, it doesn't feel that great to be the MacGuffin to kill a beholder, so I'm pretty sure the kill a boss is out of the question. Solve a big problem. Well, certainly I could invent a problem to go along with everything that's here. If I kind of separate it out, I have, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, 2 instants, a land, legendary artifacts, and this big old pile of creatures. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 creatures. Count them. 12 creatures to integrate. So this is, in fact, a challenge. Because, in a way, there is too many creatures. Now, when it comes down to these 2 things here, Unexpected Windfall and Bar the Gate, as the rules I put for instance, sudden things that happen in the game. The cards themselves kind of determine the full effect, and, you know, this could be a sudden, impossible plan alteration for the players. It can be just something related to what's going on. You know, sudden windfall could be, you know, finding a secret treasure or something like that, or maybe come across something. Bar the Gate is all about passing a thing. This could be their way is suddenly blocked by something that is a difficulty, that is a threat, but not one that will instantly attack them, which actually could be related. You know, Unexpected Windfall could be related to Icing Death here. So, maybe perhaps Icing Death being a powerful artifact. Remember, I said the story could be about this. So we are already kind of formulating a plan here for the basic idea of the adventure here. And I'm going to use Unexpected Windfall and Icing Death. So we start out with our group of adventurers stumble across a cache of a cache. Is that the way to spell it? It's fine. Treasure and valuables. So that's the idea. They get an unexpected windfall, and that's basically the first thing that happens in the game. Now, whether or not you want it to be the actual first thing that happens, or you have like a little bit of adventuring chuff at the beginning, and then you throw this, oh hey, treasure, and in amongst them, artifact sword. In amongst them is artifact sword. Yeah, I would do at this point in time that, for whatever reason, like, you know, allow players to make checks, but have, you know, basically say to whoever rolled the highest, in this case, so you're hiding the fact that you don't actually need a check for this information you're going to give them, but basically, we'll call it like a fake check to... actually, no, we don't actually need to have the fake check to know the item. What we'll do is... I was going to do that is... powerful Small village. Village nearby. With markings on the treasure that link to it. So, adventurers, they've rescued this treasure, but there's markings that link parts of the treasure, at least to this small town nearby, meaning that they would probably want to travel to it. Let us start using our, look at our monsters here. So we've basically used, let's go over to Unexpected Windfall here, as a way to give them some treasure tokens, and, you know, they've got some fortune, but it also gave them this magic sword. So now we really have to look out. We have a group of dwarfs here. I have 1, 2 dwarfs. Let's see here. 3 dwarfs. 3 dwarfs. I have 3 dwarfs. So I can do something with these 3 dwarfs together that maybe they're different parts of stuff. I have 2 druids. The Scaled Herbalist and the Circle of Dreams druids. I then have the Beholder, which I'm going to say the Beholder for now. I'm going to put with Bar the Gates. We'll get back to that. I've got the Djinn, which is its own thing, which got to figure that out. I've got the Shambling Ghast, which is obviously an enemy. It's our first and only obvious enemy. And then I have a half-elf, a human, who are both spellcasters, a Jaded Sellsword, who's a Dragonborn, which we can figure that out if we're doing something else, and then the Stein of Stygia, which is basically a Tiefling Warlock, but, you know, you can have something as simple as that. The Swamp is where we're going to end up eventually, I'm going to say, in the quest of our sword. But I've kind of separated out all these cards here now into kind of different types. And you may ask why I've done this here, because honestly, I know what I want my characters to do. Point A is getting the sword. Point B, they'll learn that, hey, it's great to have the sword. We're low level. So this is going to be a lower level adventure. You know, below level 5, we'll say. We can make that, because we can look at this difficulty of a Ghast and make the Ghast and maybe like some people as the enemies. We can use some of these randos as honestly enemies that try to come after them. But the big thing about it here is Icing Death has its own lore. I don't know as much about this. I believe it's one of Dritz's weapons that he got from slaying the dragon Icing Death, because if Icing Death dies in the card version of it, which we can actually open up here to look at that, which is probably a really good idea here. Icing Death Frost Tyrant. Here, good old Icing Death. When it dies, you create the artifact. So it's the dragon dies, we get an artifact. Evil dragons might not like this and might want to recover it. I'm just saying, kind of a thing that would be very anti-evil dragon. You know, big old powerful evil dragon was killed. It might paint a target your back. So certainly, if the PCs should learn that, they might want to deliver it to someone who can guard it and keep it out of the reach of evil dragons, and also, you know, not have them worry about it. So that's an important thing. Now, the swamp terrain makes it more difficult because, honestly, because this was one of Dritz's weapons, we could use actual Dritz as a kind of MacGuffin 2 here without having a card for him. If we're doing Forgotten Realms. If we're doing something else, we can use a equivalent to this character in an equivalent weapon. You know, it's a weapon that was gained by killing a dragon. Evil dragons hate it. Let's deliver it to the person. They're in the same place. So I will try to keep things, you know, a little system agnostic, but if you want to go full Forgotten Realms, it's very easy here. Alright, that's where Swamp comes in. Your adventures might take you to the swamp, and honestly, one of the areas I thought about was Underdark here. This screams a little bit of, yeah, it's the thing is, if I give first level characters an Orb of Dragonkind and they know what it is, they will know that every dragon in their right mind that doesn't get controlled with it will want to murder the shit out of them. And they point a big target on their back. They have no way of protecting it. And anybody worth their sense and has a wisdom of at least 10 is smart enough to know powerful magic item that summons and or can control powerful creatures that other powerful creatures will dislike you having is a terrible idea. And so I kind of making it the same way, thinking of this artifact, regardless of how you paint it, you need something like a Dritz, who's a powerful warrior, to look after it. So I'm thinking we're going to go into the Underdark, or Darklands, or whatever, for Pathfinder, I think it's the Darklands. It's the underground territory. We're going to go there. That's where we're going to kind of things, because that's usually I can throw a beholder in there. Before then I can have the druids. The druids might summon a guide, which is a djinn. And then the dwarfs are in the Underdark, and they're the first meeting. And then, of course, you can have whatever you are for meeting with it. And maybe we'll use one of these as a go-between between the person you're looking for. How about the... you can make the Jaded Sellsword an enemy, honestly, because, dragon-based stuff. Oh boy, I don't know if I want to use which one I want to use. I want to use as a MacGuffin character at the end, and I can make another one of these an enemy at some point in time. How about the shaman, evil shaman? There you go. We can make it very Pathfinder related. There's things that are equivalent to warlocks. It could just be a sorcerer, honestly, a demon bloodline sorcerer for Pathfinder, and we'll just have these two that we got to figure out places to put them, honestly. And the dwarfs, though. We can kind of write some stuff for it. So you see, I just went through all this stuff and wrote a bunch of stuff about it. And, hey, you know what? Let us make the Chaos Channeler. We'll start with them. Because that's where we're going to begin our entire thing here, which they're a wild mage. Again, I would love to use wild magic for their stuff, but I don't want to have all these people being fought into our players. So we're taking a step back from getting into goddamn combat. Let's move our good old two of these here to the side of we've technically used them, and put them to the side, because we've technically used them in a way. Our Chaos Channeler, so we're going to have, in village, I'm spelling village wrong, sorcerer who might know of item. Because, even if the characters probably roll well, they're low-level characters, we're going to call this, low-level, honestly, 2 to 4, we'll say. 2 to 3. Identifies sword and its dangers. Informs players of former owner who would reward them. There we go. And, be able to deal with threats that would want to claim it. So basically, now I've used this sorcerer here. Maybe he deals with a lot of wild magics, but he's got some knowledge here. And he's being like, this is, or Icing Death, or whatever you want to name the version of Icing Death in your world if you're not using Forgotten Realms. If we'll use Forgotten Realms in this case. It was Dritz Dorgan's sword. And you're like, who the heck is that? Because most players are not going to well, players might know them, but the characters are not going to know who the hell Dritz is. And he'll be like, well, a powerful, blah, 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 give some description about them. Turns out that, they should have a hold of this sword. The thing is, you should be careful. We should get this out of the town as soon as possible. This was created from a very evil dragon, and many evil dragons and very terrible things would want to claim it back. It has very powerful magics associated with it. It makes it quite dangerous. In the wrong hands, it could be used for evil, etc., etc. And, its former owner would probably reward you and would be able to deal with any of these threats as they have constantly, as they are a powerful individual. Go seek out high-level person who used this sword and things don't fight him because high level, and give it back to them because they will give you treasure, or you can try to keep it yourself and deal with, I don't know, all the murder stuff that wants to come for you. What's a good choice? Keep a powerful weapon that you can't really use very well. There's plenty of swords that have abilities that are, like, cool, are not going to save you from, like, big old things that smash you and eat you. Honestly, even how cool the weapon would be. And he throws you in the right direction. And this is where we're going to do to our swamp. We're going to finally use our swamp. So let's say, like, swamp lands to the east, we'll say, where a small circle of group, we'll just say group of druids that are friends with MacGuffin Man. So this is sending them basically go, seek out friends with the MacGuffin Man. They'll be able to inform you more. And so, we've now led them on a direction, so we're going to go use our good old swamp here. Let me get rid of some of these cards from the list, because I think we're done with Unexpected Windfall and Chaos Chandler, so actually let me put them over here. And we'll go to Swamp, and it's that swamp there. Oh, God, it works perfectly. Your search for the stolen artifact has brought you to the edge of the Mere of Dead Men. The swamp that I have the card of, which is the exact same one, mentions a stolen artifact, which we were working on here. And, hey, you can use it, call it the Mere of Dead Men. It can be that if you want to make it exact. There's some druids that have taken up in the swamp. There you go. Or the mirror in this place. Is that Mire or Mirror? The mirror. Okay. I'm bad at these. And along the way, so, yeah, hey. And then we'll actually bring out our good old Scion of Stygia, our first of our opponents. A long way attacked by spellcaster, warlock / sorcerer / other, who wants Sword. So that's our first enemy here, the Scion of Stygia. They've got some, like, probably don't have to use the exact Cone of Cold, because Cone of Cold is actually a really high-level ability, and I don't think this would be really great. But they can have ice magic. That's pretty easy. Uses ice magic. Stygia is supposed to be a frozen area within the 9 Hells. I think Pathfinder's the exact, very close, if not exact, version of that. So honestly, just having them use ice magic against you, perfectly fine. Source spellcaster of some kind, arcane, whether it's a warlock, whether it's a sorcerer, they use some ice magic on you. They are jerks. They are after your weapon, and it proves that there are folks that are after the weapon. That's the thing is, it shows that people are after it. Now, this is a threat that your players can overcome, but it shows that more powerful things are beginning to detect stuff. So it's the first of many encounters that they will have. And then, honestly, we could have... this is before they get to Swamp. While in Swamp, we can actually throw the Shambling Ghoul after them. So we have a second encounter while exploring. fight shambling ghast. Basically, just a ghast. Just a ghast. This is where, like, a ghast would be a pretty difficult thing. This is not after the weapon. This is just there in difficult, so that we have that fighting them. We have these 2 encounters very early on, proving the dangers of their quest, too. So then we have them run into, of course, the first person is the scaled herbalist. Run into lizard folk, druid. They must convince of their what's the word for it? Friendliness, non-dangerousness. I'm looking for a word. Their good intentions. So basically, the scaled herbalist will be the one that will run into them first. They'll be able to. It's a druid. Hey, let's talk to you. The master of my circle, of my group, is the one that knows about this. Yeah, alliances too. That's a good word for it too. We have to convince this person, basically through bribe or skill check or showing, like, showing their hand already or something like that. They can do things like showing the artifact probably would be a good show of the hand, and convince them to take them to their master, who is the friend of the person we were talking about, Dritzt or whoever, the Circle of Dreams Druid. Elf Druid lead group, powerful. Friend of MacGuffin Man. So that's where we move into the Circle of Dreams Druid, who we're using as the person who can basically use, let's say, some dreaming ability to try to detect where this person is and to find them. The idea here in the case is that they are going to be using basically a dream magic to locate a person. So we're going to use, they're going to go into their dreams, and you're basically going to have to spend your time there. And they might drag you into the dreams too and try to, send them along. And then, to make this a lot less of a combat kind of thing, but still have encounters, we'll summon a guide and protector for PCs. Djinni. This is where we get the Djinn in. Because remember, this is not meant to be a full combat game. We talked about this. This is an adventure game. It's all about the quest and traveling to places. So having this Djinn be their kind of guide and protector is like, hey, this is important. Take this thing that will be with you on this dangerous path. And then you have to go to travel into the... They are fortunately nearby, but they're in the Underdark/Darklands below this swamp. They'll lead you to the place where you have to go. And we'll say Underdarks/Darklands/underground area, whatever it's called. So, Djinn's guiding you, taking you along to this Underdark. But along the way, we're getting into our last battle, which is a little more difficult battle, which, I'm going to be honest, if I would take a look, I would kind of calculate what kind of difficulty I could do using a Djinn and the player characters, because we're going to have this Jaded Sellsword, who's a mercenary, and they could be a powerful Dragonborn NPC mercenary, or if you're talking Pathfinder, something like a half-dragon. Or even, so there's some other dragon-based things that you could use for other things, for other editions, that would be able to fight against them. Dragon-blooded person / mercenary, come for sword fight Djinn NPCs. So it'll be difficult fight, we'll say. We can call it a difficult fight, but it's going to be difficult because whatever this is going to be much more powerful than the players in general and be outside of their normal ability to fight it, but the Djinn will basically be their trump card and help fighting against it, and you should be able to get through fighting this powerful dragon that, was being hired on by a powerful dragon to claim the sword. So, head into underground to a dwarven settlement. Their first stop. Because they know the person's underground, but they don't know where he is in. So, what do we got? We've got this dwarven settlement, and we want to have some things happen here in the dwarven settlement. We got the Gloomstalker, which I think I can use the Gloomstalker as the person that they're going to eventually get information from. But they have to find this person first. And of course, there is the merchant here, the shady merchant down below that sells information that perhaps be the one that they will learn might know a thing or two that will have to pay off or bribe or something and send them to them. So we've got two things there with the Skullport merchant and the Gloomstalker right there, right away. Just checking abilities of cards to see if there's anything on any of these I really missed. We can mention the ghast had like some kind of treasure on it, it looks like, because it's smelly and it's a ghast. We got the dreams on there. Mercenary, pretty good there. Has some loot. We'll just put that on the ghast. Just to mention it. Because these last are the last ones we're going to do here. So we still have the Brazen Dwarf we kind of have to figure out here. Because, honestly, maybe that's our first thing here, is the Brazen Dwarf is, a fire, it looks like a fire sorcerer, or dragon-blooded sorcerer of some kind. And, maybe they're guarding the place here. And, sudden surface dwellers with a Djinn is just kind of weird. Oh, sorry, that's this area here. Realign that there. I misalign that and realign this one here. Must deal way past guard of the gates. A fire sorcerer dwarf. Hot-headed, aggressive, and dislikes surface dwellers. So, you've got a person here that's barring the gates, protecting this settlement, who's not really friendly when people coming into this place. Who are you? Why are you here? We don't take kindly to your types around here. Very, kind of like that. Who's just, you're surface dwellers. Why are you here? And then if they ask for information, finally get vague. Info can be gained by, through the merchant. So, then we get our Skullport merchant over here, which is right here. Ba-boom! Who, is a person that knows everything in town or who to speak to. So basically, you have to go to the merchant because the merchant knows things. And the merchant also can sell some stuff and maybe buy some stuff that you got from the ghoul. You could probably re-equip a little bit. You had the treasure from the beginning of the game that they got. Give them a treasure. You gave them the treasure. Plus the treasure that they had gotten from the ghast. And so this will also be an opportunity to spend money. Opportunity to spend and re-equip. Granted, you are not planning for any other combats, at least I'm not. It doesn't mean I don't want to add some extra encounters and stuff that are not based on what I've got through cards. I could have a few more fights here and there, but I'm only planning out basically 3 kind of, I'm only counting out so many encounters here. I put together 3 fights, because I wanted 3 encounters that were actually combat encounters, and I ended up that way. But you can have more battles that they have along the way, and more fights. You just have to kind of figure out where you want to have them. So having them spend money and get more equipment isn't necessarily a bad thing. They have had a number of fights up until now. I'm not planning, with where I'm doing here, any more fights after this point in time. Doesn't mean I'm not going to have any, with the cards not giving me one. They're not fighting the Beholder. But, we learn of Gloomstalker / Ranger Dwarf knows of person and worked with them. Go to Ranger, inform of quest, and learn of location and basic mission. I'm not going to put the mission here that our legendary person, Dritz, who's in a little bit of the Underdark under this swamp, or whoever it is, was. But, it's up to you in this case, You could definitely... Oh, I see that. I'll just put over here. You could make this, whatever it is. There's a person that knows the Underdark. Can hire or convince to come with and lead them. So this is a person that you could convince to come with you as another guide. You've got the Djinn, who's been a guide to here, and has been more of a guardian. But, again, dreaming is inaccurate. You dreamed some knowledge, so you kind of learned where things were. Turns out, dreaming is an inaccurate science when it comes to detecting where someone is. The Gloomstalker should be able to lead you the rest of the way if you want to convince him, or you could just get the information. And again, that comes to, I'll never mistake a roper for a stalagmite. Again, hey, the person has experience here. So then, yada 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 yada, adventure in underground. We'll just put that there, because again, I might keep it simple. I might make some survival checks, which you might have, like, if you're 5th edition, you'd have advantage because you'd have the guides, or maybe a bonus if you're not, or you could have the person roll it if you're confident in their skills, that kind of thing. As you kind of move through this territory, explore along the way, deal with, maybe a couple of small threats and stuff, but then you get to cavern that leads to location going for. So again, Beholder / well, that's spelled wrong, / aberration, guarding the way. So this is where the bar the gate comes in, where, the path is closed to you. But I'm also using the Baleful Beholder here. It's a very powerful creature that is very hostile to life. Yet somehow, someone or something has convinced it to guard this spot and prevent things from entering. And it warns you. So that's the thing here, is it's going to actually speak with you. Surprised. So, this is going to be up to your PCs to determine outcome. PCs, outcome. Diplomacy, stealth, going around, probably not fighting it, ... Other. It's a challenge that is not a combat challenge, because this is a powerful creature. Your guide, if you had him, or the Gloomstalker, I'm sorry, going back, the Gloomstalker, or the Djinn are going to be like, holy crap, this thing is really difficult, don't fight it, if it's a beholder or whatever it is that your players are going to be having to somehow deal with. And, you know, it's speaking to you, meaning it's the possibility of communicating with it and having something like diplomacy or bribing it or something, and you can figure out if it can be bribed. And maybe it can, maybe it can't. And why is it here? It's probably not going to answer you, but it's guarding this place, and it's a mystery. Mystery, why guard place? Players may never know. It's one of those things is sometimes you run into stuff that is mysterious and you don't know the answers to. And certainly, in a lot of adventures that you might have that are published adventures, they will have this mysteries often associated with, why is this creature here? I don't know, it fights you. That happens a lot, unfortunately, especially with older editions and the way they're written. Even in newer editions sometimes, it will still write the, why is this thing here? Well, we wrote a story that the players will never know about, that's why it's here, it still fights them, just for some variety of creatures. In this case, I'm not calling on that classic trope, I'm calling on a little bit of a different kind of trope here. I'm calling on it to communicate with you, and you're going to have to deal with that. So this is going to be kind of a different, more difficult thing for your players to deal with. Figure out what they're going to do about this beholder that's barring their gate. So say barring their way. So yeah, bar the way. We've been able to use, or in this case, bar the gate. We're not having it might be a literal gate, you know, that is blocked from them. But in kind of the idea is like, it is the creature, it has these abilities, it's blocking your way, it's very dangerous. So, we did use the Jaded Spell Sword, I'm sorry, let me put it in place. We used it before the Brazen Dwarf. There you go. So, we have one card left, our Aberrant Mind Sorcerer, which is our final actual skill challenge that we have here. Regardless if you get through the Beholder or find some other path here, they end up at location, ruins, cave system, up to you what you want it to be, up to you when you're determining the reason why Tritz or whoever else is here, and, you know, there's a half-elf, psychic, person. Look, they have psionic spells, which there's a version of in 5th edition. There is, in fact, psychics in Pathfinder, so there is also mind people. So we can easily have it. It says Aberrant Mind Sorcerer. Sorcerer. Or other. Up to you. Last person to deal with and convince of quest takes to the Goffin Man, get loot and adventure. There we go. Simple as that. Hey, we just came up with a story, and it's not a dungeon crawling explorer adventure. It's an adventure where you travel the lands and are on a quest, and it seems like a really fun one. So, let's review our adventure as we've gone over it here. We start with, of course, not Icing Death itself, but the weapon that comes from murdering the crap out of Icing Death Frost Tongue. And in this case, is it Icing Death? Is it another magical artigraph MacGuffin sword? I don't know, but a bunch of things want it, probably dragons. It's our MacGuffin for the day. You found it with some treasure that you happened to come upon. I would say maybe a ruined caravan that was hidden off to the side somewhere in a place that you shouldn't have noticed, but somehow your players came across. Some kind of evidence of its hiding. Anyway, this is of course an unexpected windfall. You got treasure! You're rich! But there's a fucking magic sword here that we don't know anything about. So we go to a nearby village where there happens to be a powerful sorcerer there who deals with some unusual magics and might know something. They inform you of what the sword is and who originally owned it, but also the dangers of keeping it. And then they say to you, perhaps if you're not ready to fight those dangers, the original owner would reward you greatly with treasures and perhaps other magic items that would be a little less dangerous to have a hold of. Basically, hey, you're low level. Maybe you should go on somewhere. But this leads you to a nearby swamp, maybe the Mirror of the Dead Man, near something else related to this artifact. And in that swamp, but before you get to that swamp, you are ambushed by a powerful ice-using spellcaster who wants the sword for themselves. The sword has maybe powers over ice. Maybe we could say that. The icing death thing kind of screams. It's from a white dragon, has powers over ice. Perhaps that's what this one also has. It got some ice powers, so it wants the ice sword. It wants it from you. You must fight and defeat this character. But you'll find yourselves eventually in the swamp, and the swamp is a very dangerous place, as there are ghasts there that you must deal with one of. Its horrible stench causing you very issues. But defeating the ghast grants you an amount of treasure that you can use and take with you on your adventure. Eventually, though, you find signs of the druids, and you run into them. A lizard folk druid who's not very friendly towards you, but with some convincing and some speaking with, they would take you to their leader of their small circle, and, this powerful dream-based druid who's friends with the person that owns the sword and can tell you of where they are by taking you into a dream state along with them. And along the dream, you will learn of the information of its location, but it proves to be a very dangerous location that the druid senses to you. And a druid being a benevolent kind of figure, much more of a neutral figure, and especially wanting the sword to get to its friend, will summon forth Djinn to guide you and protect you. And this Djinn will go with you for the rest of your adventures. But the rest of your adventures leading you into the underground, whether it's Underdark or Darklands, up to you for whatever your world is, or whatever you call it in your world. Even with its help, you run into a powerful mercenary who's got dragon blood in them and wants that magic item for whoever's paying for its services. Of course, maybe you could try to make deal with it with money, but it wants violence, and it is expensively paid, and it's ready to claim your blood and that weapon for its current person that has paid for its services. But this takes you into the underground and eventually to a nearby dwarven settlement, where your dreams have led you to. There, a powerful fire-based dwarf spellcaster will be guarding the town, and will not want you to enter very easily. Kind of not wanting outsiders, especially people from the surfaced world, to come down here, as it looks as you as very dangerous and bringing in very dangerous things, especially because you have a goddamn Djinn with you, and that seems unusual. But convincing your way past to it, it will provide some information from you that there is a merchant in town who knows all the people and knows all the things. Gets all the information, knows who you want to talk to if you're looking for a person. So the suggestion is like, this person knows stuff. And getting through the merchant, maybe spending some money, you will learn of a ranger from this place who worked with our MacGuffin man, as I've called them, our legendary person who originally had the weapon. Perhaps you'll convince them to come with you as another guide, or perhaps you'll just get the information from them. But along the way, and as when you're getting close to your definition, you'll be suddenly stopped by a powerful creature out of nowhere that is blocking your way. And perhaps it is a beholder, or some other similar powerful type of aberration that is oftentimes evil and terrible and just rips and tears mortals and humanoids apart. But this one is willing to communicate with you and warns you of not allowing you to pass. How do you get by it? How do you deal with it? Do you try to negotiate your way past? Do you try to find another way? Well, that's questions for your PCs to answer. But regardless, they must deal with this fact that this very powerful and very dangerous creature is blocking their way and preventing them from going. And it's basically warned them against transgression. But eventually you locate the location where the legendary person is. MacGuffin Man himself, and a powerful psychic mind caster is there, who's the last person you must convince. The person that seemingly is leading the campsite currently of this person, and getting past them and convincing of you of your worth and why you were there will eventually lead you to, and they will probably try to read your mind or sense your mind and sense whether you're lying, giving you an idea. Read mind / use powers to gain your intent. And once you've convinced them, they take you to legendary MacGuffin person. MacGuffin, I call him MacGuffin man, but it could be MacGuffin woman, MacGuffin other, whatever you want your MacGuffin legendary person to be that originally had the sword. And you trade it in for some loot, and hey, your quest is done. Cool. And it's a really nice quest for very low-level people. Honestly, this one seems fun. It does seem like a fun one because it's not like a huge combat-based quest. I like it when I design some of these because they end up being in such a way that they are more interesting quests and have... It's the idea that I just went through this. And of course, I threw combat. I don't have a big dungeon in here. I don't have a boss. Ambulance speeding by. I don't have a big boss. I don't have anything kind of like super, like dangerous except for the Beholder, but the Beholder isn't a boss. It's an obstacle to overcome. And that's the thing is, it's all about overcoming obstacles and taking on things while you're holding on to this powerful artifact. And it makes it a very interesting and unique storyline. But we should give a name for this thing, because I have come up with names for these over the past. Why don't we call it Curse of the Legendary Sword? Because it's a very powerful weapon, sword, but brings this curse of that there are powerful creatures that would want to gain a hold of it, and it is known... That's a fire truck now. I'll let them pass. I can edit that out if I was editing this, but it's live, Hope everything's okay with those people. But so, the person that controls it is powerful enough that no one wants to mess with them, no one tries to claim it, and those that do oftentimes meet their end. So, you're not that. So, hey, we've come up with the Curse of the Legendary Sword. It's a, item that, how it was stolen and how it ended up in that place, well, that's up to you to determine. It could just be there was a plot to steal it, it ended up there through a series of misadventures and things happening. The exact storyline can be up to you. Again, I'm giving the broad strokes of a lot of adventures here. I'm suggesting some adventures, some locations, a bunch of caverns and a swamp you enter into, and whatever, maybe farmland near a village, or like mountains near a village, or wherever you think that the treasure was originally hidden. There's a lot of ways you can adapt this and put it in pretty much anywhere. And I'm trying to keep it like that, like you take this basic idea and build upon it. There's some encounters here. None of them are statted out. That's the point of it. They're built in a way that, you can take these adventures and, as I said, it's the scaffolding of an adventure that I'm giving here using these cards. And it's a pretty good scaffolding, meaning that you, or maybe like, not scaffolding, that's not the word I'm looking for. I'm looking for the framework of an adventure. So you got your walls up, you got your roofs up, but it's only a framework. It's up to you to throw on those boards and make these real walls, and real roof. The framework is there, you just got to shackle it. You just got to, like, put the shellac on. So, hey, this is a pretty good random adventure. I'm very glad, happy with the way it ended up one. This was kind of fun. The cards were a little bit of a challenge, but it allowed me to make a lot of NPCs and kind of story out of them that does make sense with the different types of characters that are on these. I was able to use all of them in very interesting ways. Even like two different druids, one that's kind of like a more hostile, like, why are you in our territory or bothering our people kind of druid, and maybe if one of your characters is a druid, it makes it easier to deal with the first druid. And of course the dream shaman, who brings you on like a dream quest, even the sorcerer at the beginning, which was a kind of like a little bit of a wild card as a wild sorcerer. Honestly, just a sorcerer experimenting with magic in a small town. He's the local spellcaster. He or she, that person, local spellcaster that, your players will deal with and find information about. It's all about, what the hell do we have? Why is it dangerous? How can we get rid of it safely? And in general, the idea of like, oh, we could just throw it away with a danger. Oh, but hey, if we throw it away, we don't get anything from it. If we deliver it to its owner, treasure and magic items. I mean, it's very easy to tempt players into things. You know, maybe a little convincing might be done to lead them down this entire path, but it shouldn't be that difficult. Anyway, we hit an hour mark. I originally was going to plan to do something else today, so that we go a bit longer, but because of previous work on some things, I wasn't able to. But you know what we can do today, which would be a very fun thing to do, is I can talk about... keep it and die horribly. I mean, it's their choice, too. I can talk about building the mass battle for Buccaneers of the Shackled Sea. Timing this out for those of you that are watching this and don't watch Buccaneers, hey, this is around the time that the mass battle versus the forces of Harrigan is taking place. These will be released, honestly, around the same time, so that kind of keeps you in mind that it should be already up on YouTube if you're watching it, or if you're not watching it on YouTube and watched it live on Twitch, it was previously this week. Anyway, for that time, I was building out new mass battle rules that formed into a skill check kind of challenge. During that episode, I revealed the basic rules of the skill check, but it was an actual difficult thing to kind of do. So we'll talk about that for a couple of minutes. Let me turn some things off and switch us over to here. So honestly, and me over to here. Hey, there we go. Hi, everybody. We're going to switch over to this one just because we're finished up with that entire section of stuff. And, this is our part 2. So this is going to be a little bit longer of an episode, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about what I did. Because I can talk about what I did, a little bit about discussing tabletop, but I'm not going to be able to break down what I did the same way. So, I came up with mass battle rules. If you're unfamiliar with mass battle rules, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's rules for combat that are... let's see if I can window capture this easily. No. So let's actually move me here as I talk about this. The original mass battle rules for this game were ones that were set up in the adventure. And honestly, they were fine. They weren't great. I'm going to inform to you, but I don't know if we've talked about it in discussing tabletop at all. But one of the things that really kind of sucks to run are mass battles or large-scale combats. Gonna admit, they suck every time. Mainly because, well, large-scale combat's a lot of rolls. Mass battles oftentimes work the same way. I'm just going to put it on the list for discussing tabletop for now. Mass battles and large combat. Mass battles and large combats. You honestly run into a lot of issues with that. And those issues being, let's put that there. We'll adjust a little bit here for what I set up here. That is the discussing tabletop list. That is not the one I need. Mass battle for Buccaneers. That's the one I need. Yeah, there we go. So let's just adjust this here and make sure the form is seeable completely. There we go. So first thing I did here, this is the text file I was using to develop this. So I want to show this off here while I talk about it. First thing I did was I figured out what I wanted to do. I'm having a big old battle. The battle normally is just the battle. But I'm like, okay, if I'm going to do this where it's skill and check based, I've got to divide it into a number of parts. And my first initial combat was, let's have 5 parts of this, and each one will have 5 checks. I have 5 PCs. Each of the PCs does one thing during these 5 parts. That's what I thought. I thought 25 checks sounds like a good amount of checks. That was my first thing I did. Then the second thing is what I call the skillish chart. I went into the character sheets of my players and made a list of 5 things which they were good at. Numbered 1 to 5. Why? Because 1 is kind of their top tier thing and kind of goes down there, down the list. I basically put these in a general order of what are their strong points, dividing them up. It's exactly what it looks like there. I went for strong points here when I was designing this. So this is where I worked first. And now a bunch of this stuff, I added in extra for some of the details and stuff there. I then came up with the 5 parts here. I'm not going to go over all of them today, just because, hey, at the time of this coming out and originally being recorded, not the full mass battle isn't done yet, so I don't want to reveal all the secrets, but we can talk about a couple of secrets. But parts 1, 2 are complete, so we can kind of go over what I did. I came up with 3 parts. Effectively, I came up with 3 different things that would happen. 1 was the setup, 2 was the first fight, 3 was an attack on their island that they're going to have to deal with. They learned about that. 4 is a secret, but 5 is we got to figure out a way to... Because this 5 is the obvious one, because there is a technical 6th part, which they know about, which is in the mass combat, the end of it is boarding the wormwood to take it over. And to maybe get some captures and gain some information. That is the end of this entire thing. That's the kind of thing that they knew they were going to have to do and get to. So part 5 is setting up that. Setting up the board the wormwood and take it on. So part 4 is kind of a surprise there. But the other ones, I came up with it. Like the 1, 2, and 5 were easy ones. Coming up with 3 and 5 took some thinking, and stuff like that. But once I had the basic ideas, I can kind of then break down what the 5 roles are for them. Before I did that, though, I looked to what I wanted to do with the DC and the rank system, which you can see are right here, where I wanted a set of things that I wanted, like, different levels of failure and success. But I also put in here a no change section. What does that mean is you break even. That was a decision I made very early on when I was kind of thinking about what I wanted for degrees of success. And the number of degrees of success I did here are a lot. If you look there are technical 7 degrees of success. And I used the basic idea of a DC 20 as the check for my thing. Because again, when you make a check, you're getting at least a small success. So that's why I was like, okay, small successes, you make the general DC 20. That's the kind of goal I have in mind. And then I put, like, that was very easy that I was able to be like, okay, that puts me on my scale. I can have right below there, kind of like, it's like no change is like a small failure, almost, you think about it. It's not the partial failure because nothing really bad happens, but you've not done enough for anything really good to happen either. You're not successful, you just didn't fail. That's what's no changes, which is still, in a way, a failure. It's just not the same kind of failure because there's no negative ramifications of it. And then, of course, great success, absolute success. I did want that, like, if I rolled higher than 35 plus, and then the partial failure and utter failure. With utter failure being any 1 to 9, which I figured out was going to be difficult just because, in general speaking, on this difficulty chart, most of these people are going to be rolling things higher than that. Then I thought, what skills should I use for this? And I came up with the entire thing of, hey, let's have that there's multiple skill choices. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll come up with a list of skills. But I'm like, well, some of these skills aren't built the same as others for using them. Sure, I can see an argument for using these skills, but they just don't work as well. And then I came up with the ranking system that are right here, where higher rank skills increase the DC. So, like, if I'm using a rank 4 skill for a for a normal DC thing, it increases the base DC to 17. That's much more difficult. And honestly, there's a possibility of utter failure for most people rolls. Some of those people get only plus 14 to some of these rolls they were making. Granted, they only have to roll 1, 2, or 3 then, or 1 or 2, or 1, 2, or 3 to get that utter failure. But it has that possibility if you're doing that. But again, having that rank 4, and some penalties and stuff, it can set up things in such a way that aren't great. Anyway, so then we move on to some things down here. The Sea Elves was something I added in that day. The attacks and saves was something that I actually thought about later on, because I'm like, oh hey, I'm using, or ability checks. I had attacks and ability checks in here. They aren't going to get the same DC as skills. Because skills, you automatically get more on. We're talking Pathfinder 1st Edition here. Pathfinder 1st Edition, if I'm talking just a general attack, it's my base attack, which can be my level at most, plus an ability score. Dex or melee, or strength. Ranged, base attack bonus, plus dex. When I compare that to a skill is your rank, which is however many ranks you sunk into it, which could be up to your level. So that's why I kind of compare it to base attack. I keep them kind of similar, because you might not have full ranked it. Plus an ability score, plus 3. So that's kind of similar with save. You get base saves and stuff. That's why I did the DC reduced by 3. Ability checks, I made a little bit more challenging. DC reduced by 5. But again, that still only cancels out some of a level. So ability checks are still the most hardest thing to do, because they're just raw talent from your body or your mind in some kind of way. But you can do them. Then I talked about score a little bit. I figured out there would be a scoring system. A scoring system would be good. And originally I was just going to do a final scoring system, but then I thought about it later on, and I added in the fact that there's going to be, each part has its own scoring system that has advantages. And then during this process, I came up with the advantages and disadvantages. Let's go all the way down to that, which is down here at the bottom. Hey, it's part 6, Battle for the Wormwood, there we're at. And the total score from minus 25 to plus 35, because you can get from negative 5 to plus 7 in base score without any bonuses from advantages, disadvantages. I'm going to do more with these. There's a little bit more I want to do with this stuff here that I'm going to refine during this next week here. But this is the basic idea of it, is that if you roll really terribly or really well, you get an advantage or disadvantage. Basically, it's a roll on a d20 chart that's almost like wild magic for a sorcerer, except if it's a disadvantage, it's something bad. This chart has been provided to the players, so they know about the chart. And there are things on here. A natural 1 or a natural 20 do stuff on either of these. A natural 20 on an advantage is very good, but it's something that has an effect during the final adventure. Same with a natural 20 on a disadvantage check. Now, they have had, I don't think they've actually had a disadvantage check yet. They've managed to avoid those. They've had advantage checks. They've rolled a 1 on advantage checks, which I found out that maybe having ways to cancel out ones on a disadvantage check would be actually good. So I'm actually going to write this in here. You can also use a rolled advantage to cancel out a 1 on an advantage roll. So we dealt with the 1, but from now on in the future, if you've got an advantage you already have, you can give up that advantage to cancel out a 1 roll, I'm going to say. It's the kind of thing that you can give up some of the extra rewards you rolled in order to cancel out having something turn into a failure. It's, hey, I would have rolled this thing and gained this thing, but hey, maybe my luck in that something happened along with that the advantage I would have had changed my luck in a way. I can use up some of the luck I had previously to cancel out new bad luck. Because changing to a partial failure sucks, but I wanted to make the 1 in 20 matter in this, and it was hard kind of figuring it out. I originally didn't think about turning the 1 on an advantage into a disadvantage here, but as I thought about it, I'm like, that's kinda awful. That's a little too much. Let me just change it. It just felt like certainly it would have been and let's change this to... Sorry, I'm changing the category and stuff. Because we are doing something else. Now I'm talking about mass combat rules. I'm just trying to keep things, reasonable for the first part. We changed it. I'm already in the middle of it, but I changed it now. I had 2 parts to this entire thing. I should have done that earlier. But I try to kind of come up with things that would be helpful to it. So it's sort of like capture some fleets, get some loot, get some magic items, get some magic weapons, getting a special ally, which is basically a bonus to a check, a fleet switching sides, which can make a difference depending on when that's rolled, a powerful NPC, being someone that they gain, and then just a general +1 score, which doesn't sound like a lot, but I haven't, I'm going to confess here, I haven't finished the final scoring. That's the one thing I hadn't done as of yesterday, but I figured because yesterday, after getting into the mass battle, we were going into the battle in the Wormwood, the results of the entire battle were not going to be done no matter how quickly they got through the elves. They were not going to get through the entire mass battle, and then the battle against the Wormwood crew, regardless of how I set it up. So I was like, I'll worry about the final scoring during this week. So final scoring is something I'm still going to be working on. But see, I'm keeping track of the score for each part here. Let's actually do that here. Score right now is 0 for part 3. There we go. So that was the entire thing of the advantage and disadvantage system that I kind of came up with. But then we get into each of the things where I determined the 5 stuff. And then for those, I kind of gave some little wordings about what this kind of check is. I gave my list of like how they are aligned, from rank. And then I did this chart here, which this was the thing that I didn't think about originally when I came up with 7 different things, is coming up with 7 different things. Which sucks. But, other than some of the words describing here, I standardized the entire thing. So, in each part, I told them yesterday, I made 2 really advantageous things, 2 moderate things, 1, it's fine, it's their check, So, I did for this here, location of the battle, is top tier 1. So, if you have utter failure, -1 score, 2 disadvantages. If you got partial failure, -1 score, and a difficulty rank of something in the next part is increased by 1. No change, of course, no change. Small success, decrease the rank of something in the next part, and +1 score. The other one is +1 score and +1 score? +1 score and a +5 bonus. Because I feel like decreasing rank is great, but the rank normally is, well, it's not 5. So +5 bonus is better in a way. So that's why I did the +5 bonus as slightly better than the other one. Then it's +2 score, +5 bonus, and then +2 score, 2 advantages. And that's the way it works out. So it's pretty easy to get a +2 score on these hot top tier ones. Rally the Troops ended up being one of the ones that was the middle one. So if you get utter failure, -1 score and a disadvantage roll, -1 score and the change in difficulty, the increase in difficulty rank. If you do a partial decrease for small success, just decrease the rank of something. Decrease the rank and +1 score for success. +1 score in the +5, and then a +1 score in advantage for absolute. So you see, it's like not quite as good or quite as bad as the other one for kind of meter ones. And then the one that I had that was the least was the capabilities here, because in this one, that was the least one. This is the medium one. I'm sorry, these are the medium ones. That was the least one, because the medium one is -1 score, -5 to 1 check if you have an utter failure. That's what I set it as. So you have a -5 to check in the next part. -1 increase the difficulty for the other one, which you can see then it's kind of just where is that one? It was, I put the rally troops at disadvantage. Yeah, okay. I actually put 2 lower ones on this one. Okay, I thought I had 1 mid and 2 lowers. Okay, I didn't realize I did that. But, I do these things occasionally, not remember that I do them. Because that is the way I work. My brain barely works well. So it was a -1, -5 to a check of your choice, so it doesn't change the rank. So you don't get a disadvantage score for this one, but you get an advantage if you do really well. That was what the other one was. I think did I do the same for this one, or did I switch it over to the other one? -1 and a disadvantage, +1 and an advantage. -1, 2 disadvantage, 2 disadvantages there. -1, 2 disadvantage, that's the other good one. Changing tactics, -1 and -5, +1. And then over here, -1, -5, and then +1, +1. So, oh yeah, I did that way. I wonder if I did it the same way, that it was 2, 1, 2, and I just was thinking it was 1, 2, 2. I'll have to check the other ones. I might have switched that on the upper ones when I did those. You know, it's the thing that, you know, you set up things and you have to remember all this stuff. And I was working very hard on setting all this because you have to, like, honestly speaking, one of the hard parts of this is sitting here and when I'm looking at sabotaging the enemy, not only listing what skills you could use, but arranging them in a general ranking system of what's good and bad and what rank is at what. That was like a, what am I doing here? Jeez. But anyway. And I put a lot of details into these. So basically, that was the other hard thing to do, is once I even, like, came up with the basics idea, came up with the skills, came up with what this is, giving descriptions that sound different than each other. Let me tell you, the differences between descriptions for something like sabotaging the enemy, between small success, success, great success, and absolute success, that is hard. Partial failure and utter failure, those are easy. One of them is you failed, one of them, and something bad happens. One of them is you failed and something really bad happens. With no change, it's sort of like, it's the same as it ever was. That's a little bit more easy, too. But coming up with these was a challenge and was kind of fun, too. I did enjoy messing around with it and getting it to all work, so that's what I did want to show this off a little bit, you know, just to kind of talk about it, but hey. And that took up a little bit more time, just to make this a little bit longer, because I knew that the random adventure building, that wouldn't take too long. It's not a long kind of thing to do. It always took me like about an hour to build one of these when I was doing them and recording them. Let me just grab this. Sorry, I'm making a mess. I put this thing down in a way that now interferes with something, this box that I was going to put it into, because I'm foolish. You know, the usual. Let's move you out over here. There we go. Just putting the cards away. Not the right spot to put cards. I've been trying to keep the cards in the order of, like, you know, where they were, just so that I can kind of, like, arrange them and see, like, when I did a new adventure or not, and to kind of keep them separate. So Swamp, you got the back. Just I've been keeping them in adventure setup. But no, it was fun to write it out, and a little bit of challenging to write it out, and take some time. So I got a little bit of things to, like, you know, refine on it still. That's what I'm going to do during this next week, is do some refinement in a couple of places, like I did with the advantage there, which, again, like, you know, and stuff like that, and those rules, because, you know, I wanted... I gotta be honest, as I said, like, I said to people last night, if I had, like, months to develop this, I could playtest a bunch of different things and come up with a little bit of better system. But for something that I took, honestly, I was able to start working on this on Sunday. I did a little bit on Saturday, and I worked a very tiny bit on Saturday, up through Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and a little bit on Wednesday when I had some time. With those many days putting together this, you know, it's good for what I had not a lot of time to dedicate to it. So I'm glad it came out the way it did. But I did want to talk about that, and this is a great place to talk about it, because, again, I can't break it down the same way if we're going to talk about it on Discussing Tabletop at all. It's not my chance to. And even if I took up the concept of talking about mass battles and stuff, this is only one example. There's plenty of examples. I can't dive that deep into it. But anyway, we'll leave it here for today. Remember, on every Tuesday, Thursday, during the week, I talk tabletop and go over these interesting topics. Hey, maybe we'll do some Pathfinder 2nd Edition in the next times that we're coming up. I'll figure those out. I'll let you guys know in the future when I'm deciding things, either at the end of Discussing Tabletop or on one of my gaming stream days, which are Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. Coming up a lot more stuff. Going to be really exciting. I hope you all enjoyed this, and it was nice. When do I need to use these? The mass battle stuff? I used part of it yesterday. If I'm really time gated on the last episode of Buccaneers. And in the next episode of Buccaneers, I will be doing the rest of it. And I definitely will get through the rest of it. So, I mean, if you want to take a look at it at some point, I'm willing to share and get some opinions, too. for what I've shown people, they liked it, you know, so far, and what they've encountered for it. You know, but again, I have a little bit more work I want to finish up before I, you know, really review it with people. I think getting the final points set up and then reviewing it with people, I'll try to get that done in the next few days and try to get some time for that. So anyway, I'm going to get going. Can always talk about that on Discord and stuff. And, you know, I will probably put this up on somewhere on Discord and maybe Twitter. I will share this once I am done the entire thing. It's a notepad, you know, file that I just put in a bunch of notes on, this kind of thing. So it's not like formally written up anywhere, but I'm going to share it, you know. This is the mass battle rules I wrote for Buccaneers. When it is done, you know, when the entire thing is done. And at very least the mass battle section of it is done, so it doesn't matter as much. I will share this. Because honestly, the battle for Wormwood will not affect their score. They'll know where they're at once that's done. So probably by the end of next episode, I will post this then. Maybe the next day or something. The final one I end up with. Again, still some tweaks. Yeah. Everybody, have a great rest of your day. I hope you enjoyed this and learned a few things and enjoyed the adventure building. I will see you next time. I'll probably do more of these adventure buildings, maybe once every few weeks, once a month or something at least. Just as a little extra thing to do. But next time I'll probably come up with some plans of some stuff to do along with it, so we get a, like, you know, 2-3 hour adventure. So, you know, smaller topic with it also building an adventure. So, anyway, farewell everybody. Goodbye.